Дорогі друзі, я прошу всіх зайняти свої місця в залі. Ми розпочинаємо чергову панельну дискусію, в якій ми запрошуємо всіх говорити про українські громади під час війни, про їх стійкість, витривалість, про їх боротьбу.
In the time of war, about their challenges, about their struggle. Please take your seats.
It's Ukrainian mayors of Ukrainian amalgamated communities. We must start. My friends, I present first Mayor of Shulginka communities, Lugansk region, Natalya Petrenko. Dmytriv, Mayor of Gora, Kyiv region. Hryhoriy Rudyuk, Mayor of Nova Borova, Zhytomyr region. Volodymyr Mitsuk, Mayor of Bilozirya, Cherkasy region. And Oleksandr Syenkevych, Mayor of Mykolaiv. He's with our. Друзі, ми розпочинаємо. Я думаю, що Олександр до нас доєднається з часом. А ми починаємо говорити сьогодні про стійкість, витривалість і боротьбу українських громад під час війни на території України, війни, яку розпочала Російська Федерація.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now starting a panel about local governments and how they manage in these difficult times of war. Today, we celebrate the Day of Local Self-Government. This is our day, so I would like to greet everyone who is somehow related or connected to self-government in Ukraine. So these self-governments are trying to defend the Ukrainian people against this Russian avalanche. So our partners from many European countries who supported the local self-government, they are the guarantor of our future victory. And our future victory is our obligation, and our victory will come soon, and a strong local government is the guarantor of that victory. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I will turn to the first panelist, first I will give the floor to a very strong woman, the head of the local government, from a small Hromada, Struhenka village, Hromada, a district of 5 villages, or 5 locations. Natalya Petrenko, please watch a short film about this local government in the context of Russian occupation.
З окупації Наталя вийшла 7 квітня, тоді, коли вже безпосередньо її життю загрожувала небезпека. Будь ласка.
She left this occupied area, this occupied location, when her life was in danger on the 7th of April. I come from Ukraine. I'm a Ukrainian and I'm proud of it. We all have our fears, and my biggest fear that I would like to tell you about was the fear which I felt when I was leaving this occupied area. We were leaving this area with my whole family. Bucha, Irpin, these locations, they were going back home. They were going back home as heroes. I don't want to diminish their pain, their losses, but I had this pain, I felt this pain that these people, they were going home and we're still in that territory that no one needed, that's been at war for such a long time. But as we're talking to my colleagues, we're invited to so many forums and to different platforms, and I felt that support, and I realized that this area of Luhansk, of Donetsk, that Lugansk, there will be a family. Just these territories are not in there for now. So our local community took part in this giant project, which is called a New Ukrainian Village, or Ukrainian rural areas. So we had that huge coverage, local coverage, and through collaboration with business, we could create excellent conditions for rural areas. So the strength in Ukraine comes from the rural areas, and we were working there for so many years. We had such a great opportunity to get excellent levels of services, high-quality services to our people. And it's been a year now since the time when we set up a youth center. We managed to involve young people, the youth. They were so interested in remaining in rural areas. We were teaching them how to operate a 3D printer. We had local like interest groups or cultural centers, and it turned out that people from urban areas, from cities and towns would come with their children, so they could take part in the courses, in the activities that we organized. We had men and women coming in their best shawls, and they would come to our activities, and they would do this creative part. Or I could spend months and weeks telling you about what happened. And then a regular Army Rostov division entered our location. And from day one, from the onset, from this fully fledged invasion, we were set to organize ourselves. We were set to be prepared. We were issuing reports to calm down people every day. I was updating people where tanks were coming. I was asking people to stay home, not to risk anything. I was asking them to be home. It was Sunday, and at 8:30, a tank division of 150 tanks entered our Hromada, our village. They were stationed at the square, that the main street, and in the main street, and they were pointing at our houses. There was no armed resistance. There was just transiting our village, but they started shooting. They were just trying to destroy the technical infrastructure, road barriers, and our infrastructural systems, and it was so painful. We were so we're crying over every single road sign which they destroyed. Were the videos, the films of the occupiers at our administrative service center. We had 20 cameras of the monitoring from each and every part of the building. We could see what was happening, and when they started the destruction, so it was so painful. My heart ached. We had three beautiful felt masks, and the rest ran them over with tanks. I couldn't stop myself. I was trying to stop these tanks. I was trying to stop them all. Or perhaps from today's perspective, I can say that I got too emotional at that point, but I didn't feel any fear. I was asking them about their villages, whether they have such villages, whether they had such villages in Russia. I was telling them that we have electricity, that we had everything in our villages, and then all of a sudden we had all these people who were trying to kill us. They didn't see any resistance, so they were destroying everything. They wanted to turn everything into ruin. So we were under this quiet occupation because the front line was going closer to Donetsk. We couldn't leave our territories. We could only go into Russia. So we were locally stationed, and we would be calling our colleagues and friends, and were asking about one another's needs, and we were setting up these humanitarian service points. We were collecting food and basic utilities. We didn't count on any help, and people brought everything that they could. We couldn't work in our building, so we worked elsewhere, and we were supporting those who didn't have a chance to go to Russia. We were not bombarded, we're not shot at. They just entered our territory. They just entered Ukraine, but people were trying to leave if they wanted to leave, but didn't want to go to Russia. They wanted to travel in Ukraine, but they didn't understand what was going on. We were persecuted ourselves, our leaders. We were forced to leave, to go out. They were trying to enforce this message that the Russians arrived and they were there to stay. We were under constant supervision. We had searches in our homes. I was taken for a hearing, and then we left. The whole team of this new local government, we all left. So we have this educational team, we have the financial authorities. We keep on working for the sake of our community, and everywhere we have these humanitarian service points that support all our people. These are services of different nature, including charity. I understand that there are some time constraints here. I could spend hours telling you what is happening there, but I can promise you that we'll be back again. So please come to the oldest Ukrainian village in Ulanszczyzna. I love my area. Thank you so much.
Українські жінки українського місцевого самоврядування і танки руками зупиняють, а це ви бачили на свої відео.
All right, so these are the women who work in Ukrainian self-government. They can stop tanks with their bare hands. So this municipality is functioning in a slightly different form, the Shulginka municipality, but only one person from the whole system of local governments decided to collaborate with Russians, and all the others are still working for their municipalities, for their people. And Oleksandr is a mayor of a big city, so many thanks he is the mayor of Mykolaiv, and I talk. And we talk to different people on a daily basis. We talk with Anna Mykolaieva from the city council, and she is telling us that she cooperates with other people in the municipality, in the city, and all of them cooperate and do as much as they can.
For all of us, I mean Ukrainians, and never was expected for Russia to invade Ukraine in 21st century. There is nothing good in war, only death and problems, and a lot of problems that we will see in future. But anyway, it happened. On the first day of invasion, I gathered all my team and we decided what will we do in the next time. First of all, we started to build fortifications around the city. We have an experience starting from 2014, so we use our machinery, heavy cranes and excavators, building trenches in connection with our territorial defense troops and army. Second, I gathered all of my staff in the city council's hall and said that we need to leave this building because it's an aim, and as soon as they attack this building, a lot of casualties could be in this place. You know that if you know that in March 29th, Russians attacked by cruise missile our regional administration building. That day, 44 persons died because of that rocket hit, and the buildings became as a symbol of Russian terrorism. So we decided to leave the building of city council, and it still stays there without any people. And we decided to move to walkie-talkie Zello in our phone. We decided that we will have a connection through the phones. As soon as we have mobile connection, everyone will be in this program. And we started to work as a city in iPhone, let's say city in phone. We coordinated with everyone, and army also was connected to that walkie-talkie chat, Zello, and we also connected with them and were able to react fast and move our forces, let's say communal forces, because I mean forces of our municipal enterprises, building these fortifications, doing different stuff, even getting tanks and cannons out of the front line, using our tractors and our communal excavators. Again, with cooperation with army, we started to build more complex and more difficult fortification buildings, and started to expect Russians from Kherson area. We knew that they started to invasion of South Ukraine from Kherson, so we knew where they will appear and started to communicate with our colleagues from the local government, and they started to tell us where they see Russian army. The amount of vehicles, the types of vehicles, and our artillery was able to attack them on their way to the city of Mykolaiv. I could say that they even tried to enter the city, and our troops attacked them. So Russians fell back, and they again. In the nighttime, we got a lot of information what types of woods they are hiding, and we attacked them again. And I could say that after the night attack of February 28th, they fell back, and we pushed them back to Kherson. They almost surrounded the city. They cut all the exits to Kherson, to Kirovograd, to Dnipro, even to Kiev, and they tried to build a pontoon bridge through the last South Buk River to take the city in circle. But thanking to people, to our different self-government colleagues who reported us where they are, we attacked them, and our troops destroyed totally them, and we started to attack them, pushing them back to Kherson. Starting from February 24th, in the city of Mykolaiv, we have cooperations with different cities of Ukraine, and for sure, everyone started to help us. I mean, mayors of other cities called me and asked me, "What do you need? What you in need?" And they provided us with a lot of stuff. I need to mention that 2 years before, we got a pandemic problem with COVID-19, as you know, and we prepared all our hospitals for that, because of that reason, and our hospitals worked on a daily basis, like it was before the war, and the same time while the war time. I mean, even after bombardments, our medicine personnel closed the window using plywood, and again they started to do operations. They helped our military people and sent them to Odessa. So what I want to say, that community of association of the city of Ukraine helped us a lot too, even knowing that we have everyday bombardments. A lot of city mayors like Zhytomyr, Chernivtsi, Ivano-Frankivsk, Odessa, Chernomorsk, they sent teams who helped us to close the windows, to remove the ruins of the after bombardments. And I could say that this strong spirit of self-governance, by the way, today is the December 7th is the day of self-governance in Ukraine. So my dear colleagues, thank you for your work, and I'm greeting you. So I could say that decentralization politics that we decided to improve in 2014 made our communities more ready for this invasion and more connected in defense and renovation process. Thank you.
Дуже дякую, пане Олександре.
Very much
Друзі,
for
ми
your
продовжимо, і
contribution.
наступний спікер
Ladies and gentlemen, let us continue. Then the next speaker will be the person who represents people at the back, or at the back room. It means that these are people who are not directly under missile attack, they were not directly under bombardment, but they are very active in supporting the military powers, the military of Ukraine, and they are supporting people who had to leave their homes. It is Mr. Volodymyr from the Zhytomyr region and Zhytomyr municipality, like many other municipalities in Ukraine, have a border with Belarus. It is a very dangerous neighbor at the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me the floor. Today, we represent local governments of Ukraine who, since the very beginning, since the 24th of February, defended very bravely their communities and the whole state. Since the first days of the war, on the 25th of February, people in our municipality met in order to create self-defense troops so that they could defend their towns and villages. So the war bypassed us, actually, and they moved towards the Kiev region and towards the Chernihiv, several kilometers away from us. There were cases of severe fights. People, in an organized manner, with great bravery, faced this challenge. And after several days, in every local government, to the north of the Zhytomyr district, near the border with our neighbor, which is Belarus, everywhere there were patrol units and patrol points, and everyone participated very actively. And it was the local government who accepted this duty and took this duty upon their shoulders without waiting for any decisions from the top. So we did whatever we could to provide defense to our cities and villages and towns, so that we could jointly defend our Ukraine. It is hard to believe that we have managed to survive these days, and we are surviving and actually experiencing another wave of attacks. But the enemy cannot defeat our army in the front. So our Ukrainian military are able to gain back and to take back many territories which had been occupied by Russians. So the Russians are attacking our infrastructure very heavily. And it is yet another challenge, maybe damaged infrastructure, because more than half of electrical power lines were destroyed, so distribution, infrastructure, transformer stations, so many of them were destroyed. So electrical power cutoffs, both the planned ones, which are organized because we have a shortage of energy, and unplanned ones are another challenge for our local governments, because it is winter time, people need their heating, people need to heat up their buildings. So on the order of the president, we organized what we call like resistance points, resistance and resilience points, in which we can feed people, we can heat people, we can allow people to charge their mobile phones, they may receive some food, and simply to remain in these rooms to heat up their bodies. And the Association of Ukrainian Municipalities came up with an initiative, a municipality to a municipality. So there are also municipalities who actually are located at the back of the front line, further away from the front line, so they may support the more affected municipalities. It was like a grassroots initiative. It was not connected with any order from the top. They passed on food, they passed on clothes, medical supplies. And another very interesting initiative, which was also suggested and was organized with participation of the Association of Ukrainian Municipalities, were Gardens of Victory. The municipalities who were not directly on the front line, which were not under the missile attack directly, could use like available plots of land, sowed or planted vegetables there, and it was food which was then passed on to the military forces and also to the municipalities which were under occupation. Such activities are the proof of a courageous spirit of the Ukrainian nation, which was not subdued, which was not broken. We are defending our land, we are defending our lives, we are defending our people. So let me take advantage of this opportunity and say thank you to our friends in the EU member states, and especially in Poland, because Poland, on a huge scale, responded to our needs and provides us with a lot of support and help, both on the political front and humanitarian front as well. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, everyone. So that is why I want to say thank you, and I hope that our victory is near. So, chwała Ukrainie. Thank you very much.
Друзі, наступним спікером
We
буде
thank you.
Роман Дмитрів,
We
це
thank you,
гірський голова
your
Київщина. Його громада однією
group
з
and
перших
village.
почула
Then we have Roman
подих війни,
Dmytriv.
оскільки на території гірської
There,
громади
his
розташований
group,
саме
his
відомий в
Horomada,
Україні
first was one of the first that felt that
І саме
breath
Бориспіль
of
став однією з
war
перших
because
цілей.
of the fact
І
that
та техніка
Borispol,
була на
the
литовищі, стала
airport,
одним із перших
one
цілей,
of the
тому
first
перші вибухи
culprits
жителі
of
гірської
the
громади
invasion
почули одним із
was
перших.
within
Але перед тим,
the
як Роман візьме слово, я прошу, будь
territory
ласка,
of
сюжет.
this Horomada. So before Roman takes the floor, let us watch this short film.
Всім доброго дня. Ви знаєте, кожен голова готується, записує план для того, щоб коротко і змістовно передати всі емоції. І це дуже важко, тому що дійсно це проміжок часу для кожного з нас важливий. Але я відложив план і спробую емоційно передати, тому що ми люди, і
Well, I
це
thought
саме одна з
about
потужних наших
sharing with you
складових.
my emotions.
Хочу
I had this
почати
plan,
свою промову з
but we're all humans and emotions are among the key components of. So first I wanted to thank the Polish nations. I want to thank the whole world for all you did, because we're inside and we have felt your support every day, all the time, for your joining this support, for your assisting us, helping us. And for the first time, I'm abroad and I want to thank you. I feel this light. I feel this support. I thank you for that. So things are still in progress in Ukraine. So we made this huge step in 2020. Every single Hromada felt that change on the 24th of February. No military administration, no soldiers were able to organize people, to defend people without the local governments. So the local governments had to carry the burden of these developments. So men, women, children, well, they put on anything they can, well, everything they had on them, and came to help. We heard eruptions, we had heard explosions at 7 in the morning, and we organized a staff, we organized a task force, we worked as a team with specific roles to fulfill. Now it's easy to speak about it, but we slept like 2 hours per 24 hours. We didn't eat, we didn't drink any water. We're not far from Kiev. We understood that their goal was to invade Kiev, to occupy Kiev. We said that we had to withhold for 3 full days. We didn't know how to do it. We don't know how to put out the road blockages, but luckily we had some experience in management, and we were organizing the defense of our location. We were producing our first mines from gas bottles, and we were actually digging trenches, and we were quite successful, actually. But in my presentation, in my contribution, I wanted to focus on educational concepts here. We didn't have any units, we didn't have any places, any sites, any facilities, so we had to move into these educational facilities where we're setting up warehouses, we had to store drugs, medications, we had technical infrastructure, critical infrastructure next to our location. So we had a lot of military personnel with more than 1,000 people. We were feeding our boys every day. When we saw them sleeping on the ground, we wanted to help. So our local government joined forces, and we did what we were supposed to do. So as the previous panelist said, we could speak for hours about what was happening, but perhaps we did what we could. We also were involved in identifying certain groups of spies, and I was carrying. I was carrying guns. I was in this military group with soldiers. Men can get used to explosions. When things happen, one can get used to that. When I was leaving Kharkiv, I said, well, boys, it's difficult, it's hard, but the only thing they can do to you is to kill you, but you're ready for it. You're ready for it in your mind. But I said that every single head of local government has its very hard, because we come home and we have to face mothers of soldiers who were killed. We had to face children crying. I really needed to have so much strength to pull people out of basements after shell attacks, because people were afraid. Our soldiers, they have so many tasks, so local governments, they had to take over. We have this huge mission which we continue. So this is why I want to thank all the heads of local governments in Ukraine. Thank you so much on your day today for your patience and dedication and your effort. Thank you so much. Roman, thank you. And now I would like to give the floor to Volodymyr Mitsuk. So let me say first that this is one of the largest chromads that received about 7,000 soldiers. They were stationed there. So they were stationed there locally, temporarily, and they would start for combat from this location. So he knows what it's like to fight from day one. So we will all remember these days for long. Our Horomada, which is Yozirsk, we were operating in a regular regime. We had been set up 6 years earlier. We were developing things, we were building things, but when the war started, we were united by the fact that we were attacked. We put out road blockages, and when we were ordered to receive the army, that we were told that we would be the center for military units that would be formed and sent out to front. We started to receive recruits from all over Ukraine, and then we had all these anxieties, like standard human anxiety, 20 buses per day coming with recruits, with 500 to 1,000 people per day. So the first thing we faced was that we had to accommodate these people somehow. We had to find some accommodation, some food for these people. we had to do it somehow. So all structures that exist in our local government, they got engaged. We were gathering food, and so every day we would collect 4 or 5 tons of food produce, well, jars with pickles, with vegetable, etc. We worked day and night to feed these soldiers so they could have breakfast, lunch, and dinner stationed in to the soldiers stationed in our area. And that was at the peak of the pandemic. And when the people started to fall ill after 7-8 days, we fell short of medication, and we called on other local governments for help. And here my words of gratitude goes to Voronezhka Horomada, that after 2 days they sent us a bus with all the necessary drugs, and we could send them out to the front. Well, the pandemic was spreading, but thanks God we survived and we did not give up. Because of this decentralization, we're more united, we're closer to one another. No one was asking questions like, are you going to help? Will you help? But it was quite scary. Well, we had all these soldiers coming, and 3 days later shops were empty. People bought everything. Well, soldiers were coming and they bought all the products, and we had to tell people that they had to remain calm, that the most important thing was to send these soldiers to the front, and then we had to rely on one another. And then the key moment, March 23rd, when we heard this announcement that first units would be going to the front. And when we announced that the first 1,500 soldiers left for the front, almost 2,000 of our residents, we had 55 buses, and we were sending these people out to the front. People were crying, and people would give them everything they could because these soldiers were going to the front, and all our local community united. And I think we will win this war. We will overcome, and I would like to thank all our friends here who support us, who help us sending out power generators. As for now, we have this huge number of soldiers because they serve their duty on rotation. And we have drill grounds, we have military drill grounds. They learn how to fight, how to go into combat. So today we are celebrating this local government day, and I want to say that victory is ours and glory to Ukraine. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our local government. We can see it on the special day of local governments. So now it's an opportunity to ask questions, if there are any questions from the audience. Members of the audience have to use the mic, otherwise they won't be interpreted, because interpreters cannot hear them.
Пані Наталя, доброго дня. Вітаю всіх. Світлана Мерзлова, голова громадської
I'd like to say hello to everyone. Svetlana Morozova. I am from an organization called Universe, Wszechswit, from Ukraine. Natalia, as a woman, could you tell me what was your biggest fear at the beginning of the war? Because a woman feels responsible for a family, and you also had your local government to take care of. You, as a woman, you asked me a question, what was my perspective as a woman? Well, I thought I was a threat to my family because I'm the head of the local municipal government. So But in my role of the head of the local government, I felt I had to defend my municipality. So it played its role, this instinct of self-preservation played its role. I decided to leave at a certain point. My family is actually safe because my husband is in the front and I with my sons. We are active all the time. We are very active. Ladies and gentlemen, we are deeply moved listening to the accounts from Ukraine, but I'd like to ask whether you know what is happening in the heads of Russian soldiers who participate in this barbaric crime, in this heinous crime. Do they realize that they are part of the international atrocity, international crime?
Друзі, я перепрошую, на жаль, ми не чули переклад.
Ladies and gentlemen, we didn't hear interpretation. Let me say it once again.
Окей. Питання було, що в головах російських солдат і агресорів.
The question is repeated in Ukrainian.
Колеги, хто готовий відповісти?
Я коротко скажу, і далі, я думаю, Роман скаже, тому що, саме з
All right, so perhaps I will say it briefly. With Russian soldiers, well, we met Russian soldiers. We talked to them. What is in their minds? They are convinced that they didn't come to kill us. They came to kill Ukraine and to kill Ukraine and everything connected with Ukraine's development. Because in my opinion, the Ruski Mir does not exist. It is Russian slavery. So, yes, we talked to different people. We also talked to collaborators whom we captured in our city. They are even worse than Russian soldiers because they helped Russian missiles to hit the targets being buildings inhabited by civilians, by people. So, since the very beginning of the war, you have to listen to what Putin is saying, but interpret it differently. If he says, we are going to remove Nazis from Ukraine, it means we are going to bring our Russian Nazism in Ukraine. If he says he's going to protect Russian-speaking people in Ukraine, it means that it doesn't matter to him whom he's going to kill. 100% of people missing, of people who died in Mykolaiv, were Russian-speaking people. So what is in their minds? Nothing. Many years of propaganda made them individuals who are described by Orwell in his book 1984 as people who are believers in the statement that peace is a lie and the truth is not significant. So they don't know where they go to, why they go there. They are doomed to fail. They are like dummies in the hands of the mighty Putin. But we know what we defend. We defend our freedom, our land, European values. And at the time when the civilized world is trying to cure this cancer and find new planets in the universe, a mission of Putin is to bring Russian anthem and dilapidating toilets to Ukraine as he has in Russia. I have no doubt we will prevail, we will win. Glory to Ukraine. Roman wanted to respond very briefly as to what these people have in mind. I have one association. If you have a child of 3, can the child drive a car? No, they can't. If you look at rural life in Russia, they don't have infrastructure, they don't have anything. It is a pity, but bringing or educating the Russian nation, well, simply the Russian nation is not prepared to understand the tragedy of the events in which they are participating. They are convinced they are fighting for the truth. They are convinced they are fighting for values. So it is our task to make all the efforts to educate our children so that nothing like that happens again. Anyone else? Any volunteers? Ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that the war leads to the situation in which certain needs of the local government are obvious, like humanitarian aid and so on and so forth. But let me also ask, what is an idea that you have for your local community after the war is over? What needs will have to be met first? Education, infrastructure, or any other activities, building the social tissue, community life? I know it may differ between municipalities, rural communes, big cities, but what are your ideas for development after the war? Which will be the most important needs to be satisfied? All right, so if I may respond briefly, as for our plans for the future, plans for rebuilding after the war, we are not going to rebuild a city to the state from before the war, because unfortunately poverty, the evil will this evil that is happening will allow us to continue decentralization. We are not going to rebuild hospitals to see them the way that they were. We are going to rebuild them in a more improved way, because we are fully aware what people need. And we are fully aware that today Ukraine will be renovated not by political leaders, not by the state, but by people. That's our difference between us and the Russians. And also a brief response. Let me just say that our local government luckily doesn't have any destroyed building in our territory. We are lucky in this respect. But we are preparing a complex plan of using subsidies, state subsidies from the central budget to come up with complex development plans for every regional development and territorial local government. We are thinking about that now. We are drawing this picture of our community for the future. The war has become a great test for us, but at the same time it opens up new perspectives for us and made it possible to see our future in a different light. Before the 24th of February, we had never thought that we will live to see such horrible times. Still, we are looking ahead in the future with hope, and our local government community is coming up with a complex development plan for the future. Okay, also very briefly, to the point. You can't... Well, if there is a water tower, you want to rebuild it the same way it was. Well, we will rebuild the infrastructure, but it will be improved, let me put it like that. Every thinking activist of the local government has to think about spatial development plans. Let me turn to every mother, every father. We have experienced 2 years of the epidemic. Our education suffered tremendously, so with our local government, the educational process will be our priority. That is why the future of our children is based on education. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to thank our panelists. I wanted to thank our excellent partners, the American people.